This week, the IMF is discussing and saying how startups and big technology companies entering the banking sector are going to need to be regulated because of their forceful entry and because of startups and big technology's ability to prevent or disrupt what the banking sector is doing. Christine Lagarde goes on to say that they will have to have accountability so that they could be fully trusted. And we couldn't agree more. Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for crypto news, interviews, and what's happening inside the digital security, digital privacy, and blockchain technology space. Well, in today's news, there's just a lot happening at the end of this week. There's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot happening in regards to things related to the past, the present, and future of cryptocurrency, of trust, of relationships, and how we're affected in this larger system, this larger matrix that, you know, for better or for worse, whether it's real or not, perception is 9/10 of reality. And this is the world that we live in. These are the hands that we give. There's a lot to talk about. And so there's another separate IMF report from Christine Lagarde who's going on talking about distributed ledger technologies and cryptocurrencies and how they could be creating a huge problem for the world, a huge problem for the banking system, especially if there is some turbulence that happens. How cryptocurrencies are going to react to those systems are going to be very interesting. And when that happens, it's going to possibly create instability. And so the IMF needs to get ahead of the cryptocurrencies, need to get ahead of the technology companies. And these are technology companies ranging from the startups to even large tech companies. And so financial technologies, that she goes on to say, are shaking the banking system. They need to be monitored for stability. And speaking to CNBC on Wednesday, Christine Lagarde, the managing director of the IMF, pointed to the changing business models of commercial banks as evidence that these innovations like cryptocurrencies are having a clear impact on the financial sectors and the existing organizations that exist in the financial sector. She's quoted here as saying that, "I think the role of the disruptors and anything that's using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto, assets, currencies, or whatever, that it's clearly shaking the system." So Christine Lagarde goes on to warn that the financial industry changes must be accompanied by regulation. She goes on to say here in this quote, "We don't want innovation that would shake the system so much that we would lose the stability that is needed." Startups and big tech companies alike are increasingly eyeing the banking sector as a multi-trillion-dollar market ripe for disruption. Facebook is reportedly developing its own cryptocurrency, Facecoin, or whatever we're going to call it. Apple is releasing its own credit card, its own credit card payment system in partnership with Goldman Sachs that we saw in the Apple release last month. And other banks have responded with their own attempts to embrace new technology, such as the JP Morgan company creating its digital token called the JPM coin. And this is, this JPM coin would instantly settle payments between clients of JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, expanding its retail banking system called Marcus overseas. And so all of this is leveraging this new technology. All of this is using this new technology, and all of these different examples of, different companies getting into payments is creating uncertainty for the existing companies, which are creating the current system, which are, reinforcing the stability, because it's all an insider's game, because they all have these insider rules. And if someone comes in and upsets the rules, then very quickly the whole rest of the dominoes are going to fall down. And so to prevent the rest of the dominoes from falling down, what needs to happen is that anyone entering the space needs to, essentially play ball and get on the same set of rules, the same set of belief systems, the same set of, monopoly rules, so everyone can turn to, rule number 11 or whichever rule they want and say, these are the rules that we have to follow, So the mirage and so the perception of reality stays the same for everybody. Even though what is real might actually be different. But as long as everyone is playing along with, you know, what we see out the windows and what we see in the TV screens and what we read in the feeds, then this is the perception that we live in. And so Lagarde goes on to say that technology companies entering the banking space need to forcefully, that these companies must be subject to regulation, and that they're going to have to be held accountable so that they can be fully trusted. And we couldn't agree more, because we're not interested in a system where we have to continue trusting those that have already lost the trust, those that have already proven that with great responsibility comes an absolute desire to, you know, ruin, to take over, to get greedy. And when she says that, you know, that they're going to have to be held accountable and so they can be fully trusted, we think everyone is going to have to held accountable. And at the end of the day, what's going to be trusted is what's going to be verified. And the accountability is going to be put on the blockchain. The blockchain is going to be held accountable to itself. And then we're going to be able to verify the blockchain. And then we're going to be able to verify the accountability of the people who are, you know, interacting in these relationships, because there's going to be a new set of rules. And that new set of rules is going to create a new dynamic. And it's just a matter of how quickly or how slowly this shift is going to happen. Because this shift is already happening. And this ship has already started to sail. And it just so happens that everyone still has time to get on board and to, you know, stop thinking about investing your money. Stop thinking about, you know, how you're going to get ahead and which scam you're going to, you know, invest your hard-earned money. But instead, you got to shift your thinking to where you're going to store your wealth. Because it's not dollars. With 2% inflation every year with dollars, and that number may be rising, everyone knows to not store their money in dollars in the banks or under the mattress. You need to invest in stocks or bonds or golds or, you know, cryptos or something. But, you know, investing is not, you know, this isn't about financial advice. This is about understanding digital technology, understanding legacy systems, understanding the way relationships are going to be, you know, governed moving forward. And we see that TCP/IP was a protocol for the internet, along with HTTP, SSL, SMTP, and BTC, LN, and, you know, even probably ETH is going to be built into these systems. And this is going to help to verify the information and maintain, as Christine Lagarde puts it, the accountability and the ability to be fully trusted. So, yeah, and what the CNBC article points out here is that many digital currencies like Bitcoin are decentralized, meaning that they're not controlled by any central authority. And as Christine Lagarde knows, because her comments are following a panel discussion at the IMF spring meetings in Washington, which is examining how money and payments are changing around the world. So she's previously encouraged central banks to examine digital currencies in order to keep up with the changes that's happening across the financial landscape. But the big problem is that, you know, she may or may not know this, you know, and lots of people, you know, do know this, is that the pace of regulation, the pace of people being able to change the rules, to get together, to meet, to have more meetings and more meetings on top of that, and then to all agree on something, is infinitely slower than the ability for a group of disconnected, anonymous individuals across the internet to create a technology and then to launch it and iterate it and open source that source code and to allow anyone in the world to participate in this network. It's going to spread like wildfire. And the slowness or quickness, as you know, you may or may not see the situation, no matter how you see the situation now, is only going to accelerate as we go from 2 or 3% adoption penetration into the mass market into 5% and even 10% or 12%, and it's all over from there. At that point, Bitcoin's over $250,000. And that snowball is only getting bigger after that. As Tim Draper puts it, I think Bitcoin is the future currency. People ask me, are you going to sell your Bitcoin for fiat? And I say, why would I sell the future for the past? I don't know why anyone would want to go back to fiat when crypto is distributed, secure, and global, while fiat is subject to the whims of political forces. Political forces from the United States, from Europe, from the IMF, from organizations all around the world. And if you want to have just 0.1 Bitcoin, then you could be part of this 99% of people who really have a substantive amount of Bitcoin. We see that in terms of the number of total addresses in the world that have at least $100 in Bitcoin. That's over 5 million addresses. Addresses that have over $1,000 in Bitcoin drops down to 2 million addresses. Number of addresses that have 10,000, less than 500,000. There is a very low number of people in the world that really have real Bitcoin in an actual Bitcoin blockchain wallet. And I'm not saying that you should invest any amount of money in Bitcoin. What I am saying is that you should learn how this works. And you should learn sooner than later, because there's a lot happening across the world, not just in terms of distributed ledger technology and decentralized blockchain technology, but the way that all of the world is connected, from the financial, political, and social, economical, the way news is being released to people. You're probably watching this on YouTube. Some people go through Twitter. There's not a lot of options available, and those options are being constricted more and more. So I definitely suggest that you continue learning if possible. Help support us at patreon.com. Like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube. Visit our websites at mintingcoins.com, or check us out locally at Bitcoin NYS, where we're having meetups at least once a week in Rochester, New York. And we're also on Twitter. So follow us, check us out, what's going on, learn more about this information, and let us know, what do you think about what's happening with Julian Assange? Do you see him as a criminal? Do you see him as a journalist? Do you see him as a hero? What do you think about what is happening from the IMF releasing, billions of dollars to Ecuador? And do you think that there's a relationship in the timing of that situation? And then what do you think about the IMF really warning people, saying that regulation must come? Is it going to come too forcefully, or is it going to get out of hand and our cryptocurrency is going to boom before they get a chance to really put their hands around it? We think it's going to move quickly, and we're really excited to watch it unfold, to be a part of it as it unfolds, and then to also be here when the dust settles as well. So thanks for being with us, and until next time, I'm glad that together we are minting coins.